All right, good morning. I'm going to call the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners meeting for March 19th to order. Forgive the tardiness. We will start with a salute to the flag. Mr. Dene, you left. Okay. All right. Mr. Ciarlo, will you lead us this morning, sir? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Vaughn Hartung, Chair.
Present.
Bob Lucy, Vice Chair.
Here.
Marcia Burke-Bigler. Here. Kitty Jung.
Present.
Jeannie Herman. Here. County Manager John Slaughter.
Present.
Deputy District Attorney David Watts-Viel.
Here.
I'm Nancy Parent, County Clerk. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager, number 3.
Mr. Chair, item 3 is introduction of our new employees. So I'll ask the commission to gather down below. Employees will line up. What we'll ask each of the new employees to do is to come down, introduce themselves, the department they're in, their position, and then the board will welcome you to Washoe County.
Within striking distance, I see. Better get a little gate around.
James Wood, Technology Services, and a technology project coordinator.
Jens Pfannkuchen, Controller Department, a buyer in the Purchasing Department. Jens. Yep.
Will Thompson, Assessment Services at the Assessor's Office.
Alexandra Wilson, Washoe 311, Office of the County Manager.
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, next item is item 4 on your agenda. These are our presentation of certificates honoring employees who have completed essential development courses. Washoe County encourages lifelong learning and professional development of all of our employees, administered by the Human Resources Department. Excellence in Public Services are a series of certificate programs designed to support employee development and performance. The completion of these courses over a 2-year period demonstrates the employee's commitment to continuous personal and professional improvement and to Washoe County's Journey of Excellence. And today we are pleased to recognize that commitment. First recipient is Ashley Auer, Office Assistant 2 for the Health District. And Ashley has completed a number of items. Essentials of Personal Effectiveness, Essentials of Support Staff Certificate Program, and the Promote Yourself Mini Certificate Program. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Ashley is not here, unfortunately. We'll make sure those get to her. Next is Sophia Cardinal, Senior Accountant for the Community Services Department. Sophia has completed Essentials of Management Development Certificate Program. Congratulations to Sophia.
Congratulations, Sophie.
Hey, there you are. Next is Irene Dominguez, Account Clerk 2 for the Sheriff's Office. And Irene has completed the Promote Yourself Mini Certificate Program. Congratulations to Irene.
Irene.
Thank you.
And next is Gabriella Falcon, Office Assistant 2 for the Human Services Agency. And Gabriella has completed the Promote Yourself Mini Certificate Program. And next is Jonah Hadeen, Animal Services Caretaker for Animal Services. And Jonah has completed Essentials of Personal Effectiveness and Essentials of Performing Teams, and the Certificate for Promoting Yourself Mini Certificate.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. Good job. There you go. Thanks. Good to see you. Next is Joyce Lehigh, Family Support Specialist for the District Attorney's Office, and Joyce has completed the Essentials of Personal Effectiveness Certificate Program. See you. Judith Maldonado, with an Office Assistant 2 for the Human Services Agency, has completed the Promote Yourself Mini Certificate Program. Congratulations to Judith. Julie Paholke, HR Analyst 2 for Human Service Resources. And Julie has completed the Essentials of Management Development Certificate Program. Big one.
And always bring your own cheering section. Well done.
And Marquette Smith, Account Clerk 2 for the Treasurer's Office, has completed Essentials of Personal Effectiveness Certificate Program. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Congratulations, everyone. I'll wait for the manager to come up for item number 5. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, item 5 is public comment. Comment heard on this item is limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Commission will also hear public comment during individual action items, with comment limited to 3 minutes per person, and comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Madam Clerk, would you call public comment, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. First up this morning is Mr. Wynn Ross, followed by Mr. Sam Dene.
Welcome, Mr. Ross.
Overhead, please.
Morning. I apologize for having to revisit this subject, but c'est la vie. I commented last Tuesday that when DWR merged with Tumwa 4 years ago, the decades worth of valuable hydrologic data was thrown away. At the end of that public comment period, and after I had left, Commissioner Burke-Bigler said that I was under the mistaken impression that the hydrology studies were lost. Instead, she said that the basin resource studies were in DRI's possession, and DRI is continuing the work with those studies, and the DRI has a lot of knowledge, and the DRI knows what they're doing. A couple of things. I agree that DRI knows what they're doing. They're smart folks. Coincidentally, every member of my immediate family either worked at or currently works for DRI. And 35 years ago, I met my wife at DRI, and when we both worked there. But secondly, and more importantly, with all due respect to Commissioner Burke-Bigler, I believe she is the one that was misled, and I suspect by someone with some exposure on this issue, someone with no knowledge about or interest in the scope of the basin studies. Now, this is from my comments from last week. At the top are the basins we studied, at the bottom are the the scopes. There's 11 aspects to the scope.
Please speak into the mic, Mr. Ross. Make sure the mic is, so
Oh,
that,
sorry. At the bottom, there are 11 aspects of the scopes of those studies. DRI only addressed a small part of the first one, monitoring precipitation. And I was well aware of that study. As a matter of fact, I was offered co-authorship on the DRI publication that came out of that work. The only other parts of the basin studies that survived the merger were some of my field books and data that I had already published. And I personally think that Commissioner Burke-Bigler deserves an explanation from whoever gave her that incorrect information that led to her statement to this body last Tuesday, especially if that person was trying to cover their tail. So I stand by my statement last week that the studies cost the county taxpayers many millions of dollars. The unique and in many cases irreplaceable data obtained from those studies were landfilled just prior to the merger with Tumwa. And it is my opinion that the responsibility for that loss lies squarely on David Solaro for failing to support an orderly shutdown of the studies and the preservation of the data. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Mr.
Madam
Sam
Clerk.
Dene, followed by Ms. Tammy Holtstill.
Mr. Dene.
Welcome again, right? Sam, DNA Dene, the guard angel for government against the Reno media wacko freak liars who should be dismantled. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. I spent many years flying fighters and bombers defending our nation from enemies inside of the border and outside of the border. And since my airline, Pan American World Airways, the greatest airline in the history of the world, was destroyed by the terrorists and then thrown under the bus by our own government who would not protect her from the terrorists, I have been the guard angel here in Reno since 1995. I've attended more public testimonies than, and this is, I love all you guys, but all of you people added together have not had as much time at these podiums and done as much for the community as Sam DNA. That's me. At any rate, and the problem, I would have been the chairman of this board, I would have been the mayor, I would have been the governor by now if we had had an honest media during all of these years. Instead, we have a media that is scared and jealous of Sam. Here's an example of how fearful, how scared they are of Sam. And they used to be back in the day, they even had a little sense of humor. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. Several years ago, I was out at Virginia Lake, just sitting on the bench, playing my guitar, having a good time, and along comes this little girl with a little raft, and she gets in the water and goes out the middle of the lake, and she's having a good time, and suddenly the raft springs a leak. And she's yelling and screaming and says, I can't swim. I look around for somebody to save her. Nobody's around. So I put my guitar down, stood up, walked across the water, picked up the girl, carried her back in my arms, and set her down on the ground, and she lived. And you know what the media had to say the next day? Sam can't swim. There you go. Yeah. What would King Solomon say about that? He'd say, keep the baby, Sam. You know, one of the biggest deals that we got going right now, there's a lot of disasters going on in this community, some good things, but probably the biggest preventable, curable disaster going on is this Lemon Valley flood. The Lemon Valley flood is as bad as what you're watching on TV in Nebraska. It's a disaster, and it's been there for 3 years. And I have the simple solution. You need money to fix it, right? Money to fix it? Well, take the money. Take the $100 million that you guys are going to waste on this stupid, idiotic boondoggle to build a high school over at the Wild Creek Golf Course. Cancel that right now. Cancel it. Cancel it. How hard would it be to do? You save $100 million. You use that money to save Lemon Valley, and you can even use the same people to work out there. Nobody loses a job. Is everybody else stupid except me?
Thank you, Mr. Dene.
You're welcome, Mr. Hartung.
Ms. Tammy Holtstill, followed by Mr. Danny Cleos.
Welcome.
Good morning, Tammy Holtstill, Lemon Valley Swan Lake Recovery Committee for the record. I know you guys didn't get a chance to miss me because Danny and Denise did a great job of being in front of you guys. But I had a chance to sit back and watch. And what I saw and what I heard, I just am amazed that being a taxpayer, and I've squawked about it, and I was taking offense to it personally, between the county manager and their staff, and some of you commissioners, we pay your salaries. You have to, and you should be responding to us. You should be answering questions. You shouldn't let people be fearful. But when you get off the cuff, oh, it's clean water, which we all know it's not clean water, you got issues. The dismissive attitude is disgusting. I don't even know another word. And like I said, I was taking it personally before, but I got to see, based upon the information and talking to some people down south, that your staff is the same way with those people. So we pay your taxes, or we pay taxes for your salaries and your salary and those people behind us. And if you can't do your jobs, and there's an email that went around saying, unless there's an emergency, don't contact us, excuse you, when you're the manager and you're the assistant manager or whatever else, you should be answering your phone calls because you're on the job. Period, end of story. This right here says it all. Again. When somebody says there's no flooding, but yet there's homes all along Shane that I've talked about in the past that are their backyards are underwater, their septic tanks are back underwater, the halls who are underwater, there is flooding. These residents are in danger, they pay their taxes, and they should get the response and the respect that they deserve. And you, as the ones that are driving the ship, should make sure that that man and those people behind us are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm just dumbfounded at this county. I said before I don't like this county, and I still do not like this county. I think you're crooks. I think that you use money where you want to use money, and then for somebody to come up in a community meeting last night and say, we have development to pay for infrastructure. Well, you know what? If infrastructure was being done as development, we wouldn't be where we're at.
Thank you, Ms. Holdstill. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Danny Cleos, followed by Ms. Catherine Snedeker.
Welcome.
Danny Cleus for the record. Along with what Tammy just said, we've been listening to lies from staff for the last 2 years. They still have a job. Why? If I was lying to my employer, I'd be fired. Why are these people still here? Don't understand. I guess as taxpayers and everything else, we pay for liars. Great job. On to the next thing. We have K-rails going up next to HESCO barriers on Lemon Drive. Lemon Drive is a small enough 2-lane road as it is. So you're going to squeeze the southbound lane. For what reason? You're not going to be able to get a fire truck and another truck side by side on that without one crashing. Is that safe for the residents? We've already proved when they opened up between Water Ash and Oregon that mirrors were going to get smashed. They do. Head-ons. Almost. But yet, you guys are going to make Lemon Drive smaller and make that safe. More genius work. There needs to be a lot of firing because people aren't doing their jobs. There needs to be a lot of firing for overpaid people not doing their jobs. We're tired of the lies. We're tired of nothing getting done. Like Tammy said, if you guys would have took the development as it was going and did the infrastructure, there wouldn't be this mess that you guys are in right now saying we don't have money, we don't have money. So, either start firing people and get people in here that is going to do their job at a better pay, like they should be being paid, or excuse yourselves and get somebody else to do your job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Catherine Snedeker, followed by Ms. Elvira D.
For the record, Catherine Snedeker, non-person, non-resident, unenfranchised natural woman. That means I'm not a fiduciary. You are. Your main job, before anything else, as a governmental agency and not as a proprietary agency, is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people. That means safe roads. All of the stuff underneath those roads out there is deteriorating and the whole thing is going to wash away. Then what are you going to do? Condemn the whole area and take their houses? Sounds like a plan to me. It would be on par with what you already do. And we do pay your taxes, and we pay staff's taxes, and we pay the attorney's taxes. We pay everybody's taxes, and you all get together and come against we the people in favor of some developer. Because after all, you're way more important than we are. And in case you didn't know, for those of you who only accept a version of whatever from the officials, they lie. You know who the experts are? The people that you stick in a trap. And then they research every bit of what the laws are, how the county has inaccurately redefined definitions and laws to their own advantage to come after we the people that has nothing to do with health, safety, and welfare. Why do you do that? Why do you took an oath of office and you violate it every day. Every day you do not follow the oath of office because you're acting as a proprietary business and not as a governmental entity. You can go ahead and do your proprietary business, but you have to take care of us first, and that means public health, public safety, and public welfare. And you're ignoring all of that. You're gonna put this county out of business like somebody put an Elko gold mine out of business? Is that what your intent is? Because you're doing a fine job of it, especially the bloated administration we have. And that we have to come and hear how they passed the, promote yourself. I think they ought to be thinking about promoting public health, safety, and welfare instead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Elvira D.
Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Elvira Diaz. Good morning. I'm going to talk to the Chairman Hartung and the Honorable Commissioners. I moved from California in 2005. I got a business. I moved to Sparks. I started learning how to do community organizer, so I mobilize people. Let me tell you, in one election, I have a team of 70 people. I registered 4,000 people in Reno. I think it's the group, the biggest people that will register. Last election, I made 7,730 phone calls, so people go out to vote. I registered 500 people, and I knocked 100 houses just in 3 months. I am a Latino, an immigrant. I have a wonderful daughter who right now, she's a lawyer. She passed her bar test. She's working in Washington, D.C. She's only 28 years old. And also, I'm a very proud parent. I decided to be pregnant when I was 42, so I have a little kid. And my kid, when he was 4.5, he told me he's a transgender. I didn't know what it was. Right now, he's 14 years old. And he's been living 10 years as a happy child. Actually, today he's going to do wrestling. I'm a little scared because that's, I don't know. The reason I come to talk to you guys, the only person I know personally is Kitty Young. I submitted my application by mail last Saturday to apply for District 30. What I want to tell you is this. I like to mobilize people. Advocated for people, please register, vote for this, even you vote wrong, just participate, and you learn the system. And come to meetings. I haven't come to this meeting. This is my first time. I'm going to be honest with you. But I go to other meetings, other things. I go to legislation. So I want to really look at my resume, look at me. That's my phone, my email. And I really want to mobilize, and that will be so amazing for me. I'm a 56-year-old lady to become assembly lady for the District 30. And I really want to focus in mobilize business. It's a lot of Latino business. It's a lot of business in my district. So I want to empower people so people get the advantage of the system so they can be successful. So I really want to ask you if you can consider me. My name is Alvara Diaz. Please vote for me. And thank you for the job you're doing, and thank you for the passions that you have. And let's do it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anyone else signed in for public comment. However, I would like to put on the record that I received an email this morning from Anne Marie Grant that I will put in the record of today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have no one else signed in wishing to speak. Is there anyone else before I close this item? Okay, we will close this item. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, next item is item 6. This is Commissioner County Manager's announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Mr. Manager, do you have any such items?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Chair. I know that you all are aware that our population in District 5 is really growing a lot. And our responsibility is also growing a lot. And I know what you're going to think I'm going to say next, but I'm going to go on another little journey here. I've been getting a lot of reports from people about them being very concerned about their children who are walking home from school and being followed home. I've been made aware of quite a few robberies, and just kind of a missing part of our safe communities. And public safety is very important to me, and especially in my district, because it's spread all over the countryside. So I just want to give you some facts here. In 2010, we had 379 deputies. And right now, as of 2018, we had 346. The population, we don't know for sure what it is right now because we haven't had the census yet, but it seems like with the growth in the population, the traffic out there and all that, I think we probably should be thinking about getting a little bit more funding to the Sheriff's Department. Because maybe the possibility of, since we're kind of shy on Reno police covering the area, maybe having them help a little bit with it. Just some ideas. I'd sure like to look into that as an agenda item. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to let the board know I did a 3.5-hour tour from the Lemon Valley Advocates a few weeks ago to look at their concerns in person. I've also asked staff for an entire document of all the money spent in Lemon Valley for the recovery there and the flooding. And when I mean entire, I want to know what the county spent, what the state spent, and what the federal government has spent, because there are a lot of questions, even at our congressional level, of the veracity of those claims. I have to let you know as well, I was in Washington, D.C. with Councilwoman Weber doing congressional visits, and I think the biggest issue that we probably should be pushing when you speak to your representatives is our FEMA reimbursement. The West Coast, with all of their major disasters, fire, flood, et cetera, you know, they have a lot more muscle than we do. They have more population, they have more people, they have far better budget than our state. So every time we talk, if we could stay focused on we need our reimbursement, because we did drain, supposedly, our rainy day fund to, I guess, put up HESCO barriers that were donated to us through the state. So again, I'm not clear on all the numbers here, and I haven't received that report yet. And I still say we have to come up with Lemon Valley 3 options. At least 3 options, so it's not an ultimatum for them. We need to publicize what we have done, what we have not done, and we need to let all of our taxpayers know what we have spent or what we have not spent, and what is the sustainable way in the future. The weather has not done what our experts told us the weather would do. It did not dry up. It's actually over the level it was 2 years ago. So that's not sustainable, and it, frankly, if the numbers are true, we have spent a lot of tax dollars in one pocket that if other taxpayers were aware of that, I don't think they'd be the happiest campers across Washoe County at this point. So I would like to have a lot more conversation, and that needs to be expedited, not put off any longer. And finally, I have a Metro card. I think it has about $6.10 left. If anybody needs this, is going to DC soon, you may have my donation. I paid for my entire trip as well to Washington, DC, did not rely on the kind taxpayers of Washoe County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. I have no one else signed in, but I have a couple of things. So I have asked for a matrix from staff. Mr. Manager, you're aware of that. And on the matrix, I want every solution that's been proffered. If there's FEMA reimbursement, if there is a global solution, every single option on the table, regardless of what it was. And I know staff is working on it. I've seen it's currently in a whiteboard form, so I know it's out there. Also, on Friday at RTC, we asked for moving up on the CIP, the Lemon Valley Drive elevation and widening, and RTC is coming back and giving us a report. So we're going to look forward to that. And then, Mr. Manager, as soon as we get the matrix done, I want to schedule the meeting that FEMA has promised us. So with District 9, on some personal things in District 4, I have repeatedly asked for stop signs on Silent Sparrow, Landstar, and Rock and Robin. We had a major accident at 4 o'clock in the morning on Silent Sparrow. A young man driving 70 to 80 miles an hour missed the turn. I'm not going to ask for the stop signs any longer. I'm going to make it an agenda item. And I'd also like to make on that agenda item, Mr. Manager, Richard Springs and Shelby, the stop signs that I've been asking for there in front of the school. Okay? Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious, and I don't know if you can answer this, Mr. Manager, but I'm curious how much more time it'll be before the matrix on Lemon Valley is available for us. And I'd also like to know, are we going to do a public hearing as we review the matrix? Is it going to be agendized? What was the last part? I'm sorry. Are we going to do a public hearing? Is it going to be agendized so that we will hold a public hearing as we go through everything? I took the opportunity to go out to the Prado Ranch program yesterday, and out at Stead Airport and heard what they had to say and looked at all the pictures they've got. And I also took a tour of the lake itself. And it is a real lake. It is not an old swan pond. It's a real lake. It's big and it's encroaching on everything. And my personal opinion, as I've talked to our National Weather Service, and as we've seen, Commissioner Hartung is correct in that it has not dried up, and it's not going to dry up quickly. And I know our staff is working aggressively on this, and I appreciate what they're doing. But I do think it's time for us to hold a public hearing and really talk about what we've done publicly and what the options are, where we can go now. So I would like to see that sooner rather than later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke-Bigler. Okay, I have no one else signed in. Anybody else for a second round? We'll have another chance in just a little while. Okay, Mr. Manager, item number 7.
Mr. Chair, your item 7 are your donations today. Those are 7A through 7C3.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to highlight a few of those donations if
Please.
it pleasures the board. So I'd like to point out some of our donations today. First of all, we are receiving in item 7A a donation of $75 to the Child Advocacy Center through the district attorneys for equipment, operational, and program needs from the Schumann Trust, and authorize the controllers. So we want to thank the Schumann Trust for their continued support of the Child Advocacy Center. Also in 7B1, we're recommending a donation of 7 ballistic carrier plate vests and tactical training handler uniforms valued at $6,032.99 from the Washoe County K-9 Partners to the Washoe County Sheriff's K-9 unit. So we want to thank the Washoe County K-9 Partners for that generous donation. Also, in 7B2, we are recommending accept the one-time request from, at the bequest of Janelle Butterfield, an individual retirement account in the amount of $2,000 minus distribution fees to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office to be used for operating costs. So we would like to thank the estate of Janelle Butterfield. Also in 7B3, recommendation to approve the donation of a damaged 20-foot tow trailer valued at $1,000 from William Tank Lines to be donated and placed at the Regional Public Safety Center for a static training prop for their staff and students up at the Regional Public Safety Center. 7C1, we're recommending cash donations to the Human Services Agency to Senior Services to support operations for Washoe County Senior Services in the amount of $15,526.66, retroactive for the period December 26, 2018 to February 10th, 2019. Obviously, in 7C2, we're recommending to accept the cash donations from to Washoe County Human Services Agency to support child welfare activities in the amount of $8,475.28 for a period of December 26, 2018 through February 10th, 2019, and direct the comptroller to make the necessary budget amendments. And finally, we're in item 7C3. We want to thank the individuals at Grace Church for their generous donation of a 2018 Ford Transit Wagon T350 for use for the Washoe County Services, Human Services Agency's Crossroads Women's Program. This van will be used for the expansion of Crossroads to the NAMS campus and make sure these women get the opportunity to travel back and forth from their needed support and support groups and services that we provide to those individuals within our Crossroads. So thank you again to Grace Church for the generous donation. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will relinquish it back to you.
Thank you. And I would like to note on item 7C3, that's the second van that they have donated to us.
That's correct.
In fact, I thought that it was an error on our agenda, and I looked at the 2 VINs, and they are different. And
Grace Church has been tremendously gracious in their continued donations to our community and to our Human Services Agency. They have done tremendous things, from the homes for the Crossroads women to a number of vans. They are continuously wonderful partners of Washoe County.
we are truly blessed to have them in our community. Okay, so I'll take that as the form of a motion,
Yes,
Commissioner?
sir.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. But in the interim, Madam Clerk, I think we have some public comment on this.
We do, Mr. Chair. First up is Ms. Kathy Barkham speaking on the donation for the canines, and she has given me some flyers to distribute to you, as well as one calendar, but I need the calendar back for the record, unfortunately. But you maybe want to take a look at it and give it back to me, that'd be great. And I'll distribute those while she's talking. Thank you.
Ms. Barkham, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kathy Barkham. I'm with Washoe County Canine Partners, and I also have Patty Kelly with me as well. I wanted to take this opportunity to express how much we greatly appreciate the relationship we have with you, for your support for our Washoe County canines. Along with the generous support from our community, we've been able to keep our canines safe and their handlers. When we first started providing resources to the canine program, we, like others, did not completely understand the mission of the canine unit. Although the canines are adored by the community, we learned they are not greatly adored by the criminal element they disrupt. We've learned the major amount of narcotics they seize. We learned they are used in major cases for evidence recovery. They are also used for finding lost people and also for those that may not want to be found. They've provided themselves for the years as a force multiplier in patrol and special teams. But what we've learned is in times of division, nationwide or local, that they live in the us versus them attitude, mentality nationwide. Our canines bring us together. We've arranged many public demonstrations for people to meet these unbelievable ambassadors for law enforcement and the community. We've seen firsthand how the dogs act as a bridge between the shy and law enforcement. In October, we'll be hosting our 3rd annual Barks and Badges event at Bartley Ranch, where we invite the community at no cost to come meet all of our law enforcement partners. So in closing, thank you for recognizing how valuable these canines are to our community, or how much we enjoy working with all of you to make it happen. In closing, thank you very much. Also wanted to remind you with the handouts, we have the Canine Fundraiser Dinner at the Nugget, April 19th, which is a great event, and many community sponsors have donated to the silent auction. All the funds go directly to our canine unit. Thank you, Commissioners.
Ms. Barkham, before you leave, could you, with the remainder of your time, tell us about the calendar real quickly? How can we obtain one of those? It's wonderful.
We can get them to, this is the 2nd year we've done it, and we more than tripled our sales this year from the first year. I think the first year we sold 200 calendars. This last year it was 700.
My goodness.
And they were gone immediately. We sell them for $20 each, and then all the funds go right through us to the canine program.
Wow. Would you please put me down for 5?
Will do, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Sam Dene?
What, no welcome?
Welcome, Mr.
Just
Dene.
kidding. Sam DNA, the guard angel for the government, and we are the government, by the way, for the government against the Reno media wacko freaks. And what we have here is donations that are being given to the various entities, and I'm here to support every single donation on here. I'm specifically speaking about the one that this young lady was speaking on relative to the Canine Partners, which is one organization, and then there's the Washoe County Sheriff's Canine Department. That's another, and these folks are going to donate some money to the Washoe County Sheriffs to purchase seven ballistic carrier plate vests. I think they're probably capable of stopping a 50 caliber bullet. Is that right, Sheriff? No. Anyway, the young man is in the back there, I think, demonstrating one of the operations. They really look jiggy. They really look good. And you definitely know that that guy is a law enforcement person. I've always supported law enforcement when they protect lives and property, as everybody well knows. along with this vest that he's getting, and they're getting seven of them, and it comes out to about $6,000. So it's about $1,000 each, if my math is somewhat right. And they also includes a lot of stuff on that deal for one little vest. But it looks like it's not, I don't know how much it weighs, but it doesn't look very cumbersome either. So it really is a great thing to have. There's going to be 7 of them, and I guess the K-9 folks are the ones who are going to be using them. I'm almost suggesting, and I don't know, maybe they are, that they may somehow be made available to other people, but I would imagine SWAT team has something similar. But another little thing that I noticed on those vests is something I can take a little bit of credit for, and that's the body camera. It's got a body camera right there. It's not in your face. It's just sitting right there. Hardly know it's there. And I say I take credit. I didn't bring the body cameras, but I speeded up the process a little bit because about a year ago, my grandson got involved in an accident, and the law enforcement, unfortunately, wrote him up to blame. I was able to requisition the body cameras, and only the Highway Patrol had them at the time. I requisitioned the body cameras, was able to turn the information into the district attorney, and the district attorney summarily dismissed all of the charges, the 3 charges against my grandson, who was totally, well, not totally innocent. It was one of he said, she said. No witnesses except the one officer wrote my grandson up. I got it done, and I'm anyway, I support these things that happen to me. What is this all about?
Thank you so much for your service. Commission, I have purchased a calendar for each one of us, so when they arrive, they will be in your office. So we have a motion by Commissioner Lucy, second by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, if memory serves me correctly. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please affirm your votes. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, could I suggest perhaps we go to item 9, I believe it is.
Item 9?
I think it's in the same spirit as the previous items.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Lucy.
Yeah, I'd like to outline that Commissioner Jung is donating or in making a recommendation to disperse some of her discretionary funds. Commissioner Jung is recommending that we give $5,000, or she gives from her discretionary funds, sorry, Commissioner, but to the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation to support the participant Washoe County employees in the Truckee Meadows Trail Challenge this year. And so would ask for our support in that. And I think it's a wonderful thing that she's doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Yes. Okay, so I'll take that as the form of a motion.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion by Lucy, second by Commissioner Jung. Is there any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
I see no one signed in, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any discussion by commissioners? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, Commissioner Jung. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, that takes us into item 8, which is our proclamations for today. And we'll begin with item 8A. This is a proclamation proclaiming April 2019 as Fair Housing Month and recognize the Silver State Fair Housing Council for their good work in pursuing housing in our community. Commissioner Burke-Bigler will.
Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
Thank you. I don't have a notice here that there's, come forward, come forward.
Would you tell us who you are before?
I'm Kate Zook. I'm the Executive Director of Silver State Fair Housing Council.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome, Kate. So I take the opportunity to read this proclamation for a very, very important project. Whereas on April 2019 marks the 51st anniversary of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act for 1968, the Federal Fair Housing Act, which provides equal opportunity for all Americans in the sale, rental, and financing of housing and discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And whereas the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 added familial status and handicap to those classes protected by Title VIII and protected by Title VII, and added strong new rights, remedies, monetary penalties, and judicial and administrative enforcement procedures. And whereas Nevada state law also prohibits discrimination on the basis of ancestry, sexual orientation, and gender identity or expression, and whereas it is the solemn and sworn duty of government at all levels to protect and defend the rights of all of its citizens and oppose housing discrimination whenever and wherever it occurs. And whereas illegal barriers to equal opportunity in housing, no matter how subtle, that diminish the rights of some of our citizens diminish the rights of all. And whereas the Silver State Fair Housing Council actively works to ensure equal housing opportunity for all the people in Nevada to freely choose where they want and can afford to live. And whereas Washoe County supports the efforts of the Silver State Fair Housing Council and all other agencies pursuing fair housing. And now therefore, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2019 as Fair Housing Month, and recognizes the Silver State Fair Housing Council for their good work in pursuing fair housing in our community, adopted this 19th day of March, and signed by our Fair Chairman, Vaughn Hartung. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
There we
Mr. Chair, members of the Board of County Commissioners, nice to see you all again. I want you to know how much Silver State Fair Housing Council and the residents of Washoe County appreciate your proclamation making this Fair Housing Month, and you're joining with communities and the federal government, everyone who values fair housing. You also make this important by committing funding to assist us in affirmatively furthering fair housing in Washoe County. We do that in a variety of ways, through programs assisting people who have questions about housing discrimination. And for those of you who haven't seen it before, our annual Fair Housing Poster Contest. And you know, there are people out there who say, poster contest, that's silly. We need to start with our kids. We need for them, I'm just saying, we need for them to understand that their families have rights, and they take that information home, they share it. With your support, we're able to do a Fair Housing Awards reception every year. If you have not been, it is very much worth the time to see these kids get their awards and to start to tell us about their vision of a community where people relate to each other as individuals and as neighbors and not as stereotypes. So we appreciate so much all of your support. You got my free calendar, I think, this past year, not that I'm saying. And what we do is we distribute that throughout the community so that people understand April is Fair Housing Month, every month is Fair Housing Month. Every day is Fair Housing Day. So thank you all so much for your continuing support.
Maybe you should start charging for those
No,
calendars.
no. You know what? There's something to be said for tossing them out there into the
there is.
universe. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and this is yours.
Oh, thank you. Don't want to.
Thank you. Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
Okay, I guess I am up next with the Children's Services Division, and we have our wonderful, marvelous Miss Howell here with us. Hi. And so let me read this proclamation, and then I'll let you talk, okay? The Human Services Agency's Children's Service Division remains devoted to the well-being of our children by ensuring they live in safe, secure, and healthy communities. And whereas in the fiscal year 2018, 6,943 reports were made to the Human Services Agency. Wow. The top priority is the safety of children, and the agency works diligently to reunify children with their biological parents and preserve the family. And whereas the Human Services Agency has a 35% division rate for foster care placement by locating and screening relatives and, and fictive kin, placing children instead with their families rather than foster care placements. And whereas April is nationally recognized as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month, every April, the Children's Services Division joins in the national effort to raise awareness during the first week of April by placing thousands of blue pinwheels at Washoe County buildings, the pinwheels represent the joyful, carefree childhood every child deserves. And whereas the public is encouraged to join the national effort by wearing blue clothing or a ribbon during the month of April, and now therefore the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2019 as National Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month to raise awareness about child abuse and assist families in need of support, dated this 19th day of March 2019, and signed by our Fair Chairman, Von Hartung. And thank you for all that you do. We cannot possibly talk about you too much and all that you guys do. You guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Ms. Howell, welcome.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. A couple of things. I wanted to invite all of you to HSA at 350 South Center on April 3rd, 2019 at 10 a.m. where we will be planting these pinwheels, and we have some for you today. They even have the dirt in them because we're recycling from last year because we're trying to do our part and use what we had from last year. A couple of statistics out of those numbers that Commissioner Burke-Bigler mentioned. Of those 6,000 calls, 1,950 of those were investigated. We have currently 893 children in foster care. We are on the decline, but not as significant as I would like to see. But because April is Child Abuse and Prevention Month, it's also important to talk about, we had 373 children reunify with their families this last year. And so it's just a good testament to show that not only do we bring children in foster care, but we work really diligently to bring them back home with their parents where they thrive the most. So thank you so much for joining this effort, and I hope you can come out for the day.
Thank you, Ms. Howell.
Thank you so much.
Who else did you bring with you?
This is Kara Paoli. She is the new Division Director for Children's Services. She replaced Alice Ledesma, who was with us for 30 years. We're very excited to have her join our team. Lots of experience in children's services, and so she started about a month ago.
Welcome. Would you like to say? Would you like to say a few words?
I just reiterate everything Amber said. I'm really pleased to be working for the county and working for Children's Services. It's a real honor for me to be here, so thank you.
Thank you. We're pleased to have you.
And could we please have her state her name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Kara Paoli, last name Paoli.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Herman, item 8C.
Mr. Chair, as Commissioner Hurd is coming down, I'll announce this is item 8C, proclaiming April 14, 2019 through April 20, 2019 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week.
Commissioner Herman. All right, back to business. Commissioner Herman, wow.
I feel so lucky to be
I
here.
and protected.
Protected, yes. Washoe County, Nevada proclamation. Whereas behind every emergency response that takes place in Washoe County, there is a team of dedicated professional communications specialists who are often the first and most vital link between our citizens and emergency services. And whereas Washoe County communications specialists are the lifeblood of information for more than 500 public safety personnel, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, providing a critical safety service to Washoe County Sheriff's Office, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District, Reno Sparks Indian Colony Police Department, Pyramid Lake Tribal Police, United States Department of Veterans Affairs Police, the Washoe County Department of Alternate Sentencing, and after-hours services for the Washoe County School District Police. And whereas the 26 communications specialists and 4 supervisors who serve at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center have exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during more than 150,000 calls for service each year, covering an area of approximately 6,700 square miles with over 110,000 residents. And whereas every Washoe County communication specialist is certified by the International Academy of Emergency Dispatch in emergency medical dispatch, emergency police dispatch, and emergency fire dispatch, so that they may provide a substantial contribution to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and the treatment of medical patients throughout Washoe County. And now, therefore, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 14th, 2019 through April 20th, 2019 be observed as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in honor of our county's less visible but vitally important first responders, the dedicated and professional communication specialists who are always ready to serve the interest of public safety, no matter how difficult or stressful the circumstances. Dated this 19th day of March 2019, and signed by our Chair, Von Hartung.
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Welcome. I'm always in awe as to how calm, when I hear the calls, how calm you are, and it just amazes me. Sheriff, would you like to introduce everyone and give everyone an opportunity to speak?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to turn it over and let them introduce, and then I'll just say something at the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jalea Polak. I'm a dispatcher for the Sheriff's Office. Danielle Kirsten, also dispatcher for the Sheriff's Office.
Jessica Pardinas, also a dispatcher for the Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
So and one of you can answer, all three of you don't have to answer. How is it that you just remain cool when things are just coming apart on the other end of the phone? How do you do that? And I don't mean this, that's not a joke at all. I'm just astounded when I hear these calls come in. I'm just astounded.
Thank you. We do lots of in-house training and go through different scenarios, and we try to partner with our Sheriff's Office team as well as all the other agencies that we do dispatch for to do lots of on-hands training and mentorship and just lots of support for one another. We are screaming on the inside, but trying to be calm and be that calm voice behind the radio. So we take a lot of pride and dedication to being there for one another, and as well as our Sheriff's Office and other in the community that we dispatch for.
Well, you truly are amazing. Thank you so much. And I say that with all sincerity. I could not do the job. I just couldn't do it. Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. And that's what I'd like to point out is these dispatchers are critical in first responders. They're one of the first ones, and oftentimes you don't see them. They're the unsung hero. They're behind the radio, but they're the ones that get the calls for service out to our units, whether it's fire, police, EMS. But they're the ones, and they, like you pointed out, they have to stay calm. And oftentimes we see all the deputy sheriffs or firefighters out in the community, but they truly are a critical component of that, because they're the ones that have to remain calm as our deputies or firefighters are getting onto those critical scenes, and they maintain that nice, calm voice and make sure that our resources get out there. So, I just want to commend them and thank you for this.
Thank you so much. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, before you leave, Commissioner Jung, I see you're signed in.
I only have a question for later, Mr. Sheriff, and that is, to what extent are we providing post-traumatic stress disorder counseling as well to our dispatchers who are the very front lines and know the real news behind the news, and how are we caring for their mental health in these very stressful environments? I don't think you can answer it now. Can you just get back to me?
Okay, I could answer it, but okay.
I don't, got to ask the hall monitor.
Okay.
I don't think we're styled.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not styled, unfortunately, but thank you.
Thank you.
Please don't leave. I'm glad to see everyone is still in the back. We're going to make some photographs here in just a second. Thank you. Commissioner Lucy. An item that is near and dear, I would say, to my heart, but it's more to my kidney, my wife's kidney and my daughter's kidney.
Mr. Chair, as Commissioner Lucy's coming forward, this is item 8D, proclaiming April 2019 as National Donate Life Month.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy, for reading this for us
Good morning,
today.
Mr. Chair. I'm joined today with our wonderful Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Laura Knight, and I also have with us David Astorga from the Donate Life Network, Nevada's Donate Life Network. And so without further ado, I'd like to jump right into this proclamation. Whereas Washoe County strongly supports organ and tissue donation because of its life-saving and healing opportunities. And whereas nearly 114,000 Americans are currently awaiting life-saving organ transplant, including 619 Nevadans. And whereas one heroic donor has the power to save up to 8 lives through organ donation, restore sight to 2 people through cornea donation, and enhance the lives of 75 others through other tissue donation. And whereas 955 of people say that the support of organ donation, but only 60% of Nevadans have demonstrated by registering as donors. Whereas people of all ages are considered to be potential donors and heroes. And whereas Washoe County, the Washoe County Regional Medical Examiner's Office, and the Nevada Donor Network stand together to raise public awareness about donation and the importance of becoming a registered donor in order to save lives and heal more lives. Now, therefore, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2019 as National Donate Life Month and encourages all Washoe County citizens to consider the simple but generous act of registering as an organ, eye, and tissue donor at the DMV or online at registerme.org. Dated this 19th day of March 2019, signed by our chairman, Commissioner Hartung. Dr. Knight, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Knight, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having us here. This is the second year that the board has generously proclaimed April as National Donate Life Month. So I just want to thank you for your support. This will be our second year hosting a campaign countywide as one of the first counties in the United States to do that, spearheaded by our medical examiner's office. We will be having events to register donors, and we'll be displaying posters and table tents and flyers and all kinds of materials throughout the county to promote organ and tissue donation. So thank you all for your support, and I'll be back next month to report on the success, hopefully, of that campaign, as well as the 2 years now that we have had our donor program going at the medical examiner's office and that success.
It's so important, and people don't realize how many people are recipients of organ donation. My own family. If my daughter was standing here, you would not know. And even the mayor of our city is an organ recipient. She's a kidney recipient from her sister. So I'm just so proud because it does change lives. And there's an amazing commercial. I don't know whether many of you have seen it on TV, where there's a hospital bed with 8 people standing around it, and the people start disappearing one by one. And it really does. It's very touching to watch that, and it is so important to make sure that you do sign up for organ donation. And from my perspective, and I'm not trying to push my own beliefs on anybody else, but when I'm done with them, if somebody else can use them, I'm happy to give them away. Thank you. David, would you like to say something?
Mr. Chair, assembled commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity to...
Again, please tell us who you are. I'm sorry.
My name is David Astorga. I supervise clinical operations for Nevada Donor Network here in Reno and Washoe County. And I just want to express my gratitude for your support and my admiration for the partnership with Washoe County Medical Examiner's Office. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys are doing really important work. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. Don't go anywhere. Commissioner Jung.
Yeah, I would like to address the medical examiner and the Nevada Donate Network. I stumbled across, on accident, a New York Times article about people whose family members are in need of a critical donation. Even if they are not matches, there's a new succession plan that they do. So you come in Let's say my brother needed a kidney. We don't match, but I decide I will donate my kidney to push him up to higher on the list. So what I would like, and I've already talked to Mayor Sheevy about this, what I'd like to explore, maybe you can help me, and I don't know where to go from here, and perhaps our chairman can lead this because he has a personal relationship with this, but perhaps we can make a relationship with one of the local hospitals, with the medical examiner's office, and UNR, and create our own network here, and I'm willing to donate whatever you need from me, and get that to move other people and loved ones up the list in a different way than just sitting back and waiting for your number to come up. So I'll send you, Madam Dr. Medical Examiner, I'll send you the article. I meant to send it to you when I was in DC, but I'll get it to you because I really would like to in any way help spearhead this, but I think it would be great if the mayor and the chairman could be the sponsors and make Northern Nevada, you know, the start of it in the whole state, and happily give up our organs that are necessary. And I might let you know, my driver's license has always, even when I lived in California and was 18 years old, always been a donor.
Had a heart.
Thank you.
Had a heart on it. And that's called paired donation, Commissioner, is what that is. So thank you so much. Mr. Manager, item 8E.
Mr. Chair, item 8E is a proclamation proclaiming April 7 through 13, 2019 as National Library Week. Commissioner Jung will introduce this item.
Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas today's libraries are not just about books, but also what they do for and with people, and libraries of all type are at the heart of cities, towns, schools, and campuses. And libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week. And whereas libraries and librarians build strong communities through transformative services, programs, and expertise, and libraries, which promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all, are the cornerstones of democracy. And whereas libraries and librarians look beyond their traditional roles and provide transformative opportunities for education, employment, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and engagement, as well as new services that connect closely with patrons' needs and, well, that's a typo, with patrons' needs. And whereas libraries promote civic engagement by keeping people informed and aware of community events and issues, and librarians and library workers partner with other civic organizations to make sure their community's needs are being met. And whereas libraries and librarians empower their communities to make informed decisions by providing free access to information. And whereas libraries are a resource for all members of the community, regardless of races, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status, by offering services and educational resources that transform lives and strengthen communities. Now, therefore, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 7th through the 13th, 2019 as National Library Week, and we encourage all residents who pay this in their taxes to visit a library this week and explore what's new at your library and engage with your librarian. Because of you and our library leaders, libraries transform. And this is dated this date of March 2019 and signed by our chairman and owner, donor, advocate, Von Hartung. I have with me today our Chief Librarian, Jeff Scott. He's the Director of the Libraries, as well as Ms. Emily Reed, who is the Law Librarian.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I'm probably the biggest user in the county of the library system, because my husband and I have decided we are not buying books anymore because we're being eaten by our books in our home, and in a very tiny home to boot. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you haven't figured this one out, you're missing out. You can go online, request your book that you want, get in line if it's a heavy red book, You also can ask them to buy a book that you're looking for. I did ask them to buy a certain medical and psychological book that's been out of print for like 100 years, and it would be like, only $120,000 to buy this book, so that was a big no, which makes sense. And then get this, I get texts that remind me, go up to the Northwest Library, because it's closest to me, most convenient, I don't have to go downtown, and I just go through the drive-through, like go into a fast food store and get my library books. And I feel like it's my personal library because I can tell them what I would like to have and when, and please purchase this. And usually they always say yes unless it's a $100,000 rare copy. So I can't tell you enough. I've always been a library supporter. My father, since I was a very young child, would always take me and my friends on Friday night, which tells you how really cool I was in high school. On Friday nights, we would go to the library, and my dad and I would go into the California room and do a lot of individual history with the actual, real partier. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, one of those girls. And remember when the librarians would flash the lights, get out, it's 10 o'clock on Friday night, why are teenagers here, right? And so it's been a major part of my life, but the way libraries have changed to support the public is it's just amazing. We have maker spaces that Ms. Tavener has spearheaded. We have, my husband loves this. You can rent a 3D printer if you want from the library. You can rent tools from the library. If you don't want to go buy a big tool, go in there, rent a tool. So it does transform lives, and libraries have continually transformed to help their patrons. And I always say this is the best part about being a taxpayer. You've already paid for this. So when the recession inevitably occurs, you've prepaid to have this great resource before you. You can get rid of your internet access or buy your book purchase budget because you can rent them from the library. So I can't say enough. I love the libraries. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me read this as well.
Oh, no, thank you so much, Commissioner. I think, Mr. Scott, I think we're going to need to require Commissioner Jung to do a review on the books that she reads.
I will.
Great.
Welcome. Please
Thank
identify
you.
yourself for the record.
My name is Emily Reed, and I'm the manager of the District Court Self-Help Center in the Washoe County Law Library. And I really wanted to come down here today to say thank you to our Board of County Commissioners for recognizing National Libraries Week, because it's so important to our community, as well as for your continued support of the Law Library. For the members of the audience who are not familiar with the Law Library, we have broad access to legal information and resources. We're open to the public. You do not need a case before the court. You do not need to be an attorney or be associated with the legal field in any way. Everyone is welcome to come down, do their legal research. We have court-approved forms and packets that can be filed in family law cases, such as divorce or guardianship, even name change. So you can come down and get that access, that information without having to pay extra money online. We have computers, you can draft your legal pleadings. So we're really a great space for you to come down, do that research, have access to the most current laws. And so please use National Libraries Week as a reason to come down and get to know us and to see what we have available. Thank you again for your support.
Thank you. Mr. Scott.
Jeff Scott, Library Director, Washoe County Library System. I wanted to take a moment to recognize all the librarians who provide service throughout Washoe County. We are down the street in your local Washoe County Library System. We are in the schools helping children succeed. We are in your colleges and universities helping with research. We also provide legal help through our law libraries. Librarians are here to make your community better. Currently, less than half of Washoe County children can read at grade level by the 3rd grade. Washoe County Library System has taken on early literacy to help children become school ready and increase their chances of reading at grade level. It also increases their chances to graduate and prepares for tomorrow's workforce. With our partners at the United Way of Northern Nevada and the Sierras, we are part of the Northern Nevada Reading Coalition. We provide books, story times programs, and other assistance to young children and their parents to help them become school ready. I want to thank the Board of County Commissioners for your support of the library through the general fund and through individual commissioner funds that all of you provided through various library programs. I want to thank the Friends of Washoe County Library who provide $100,000 annually to support our book collection program, summer reading, technology, and training. Lastly, I wanted to thank our great staff for providing such outstanding support to Washoe County patrons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Commissioner Lucy, you are signed in. Hold on, don't go anywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I do want to point out and thank
Scott, don't go anywhere.
Mr. Scott and Ms. Reed for all their continued support of the law library. And as to Mrs. Reed's point, you know, the library is not just a place for enjoyment and some recreation. It really truly provides quite a bit of resources for our community, from the way of the law library, but also a number of our librarians throughout have resources as it pertains to different codes and ordinances and different things like that to get those texts. So whether they're building a home or doing something different, they can get to our librarians, and those individuals are helping. You know, and from a user, just like Commissioner Jung, my family, we take my son there and we get books for my son continuously, where we read to him every night and make sure that he's ready for school and prepared going into school. I think literacy is such a paramount skill that individuals don't really realize. We have such a free resource and something, I mean, in my opinion, being an advocate for the libraries and continue to go and visit our libraries, I think we have one of the better library systems throughout the county. I mean, and throughout the community and throughout the country. From that standpoint, we really do a wonderful job, and I want to thank you both for your time, and also the friends of the library have done a tremendous job. I know they provide free books a lot of times for people. You know, my father-in-law was just visiting from Nebraska. He went up, brought a book, he gave a book in, was able to take a book with him. You know, those kinds of things, you know, it's just phenomenal what you guys do. So thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. I'm
Don't
sorry, go
forget,
ahead.
there's interlibrary loan as well. So if you can't get that book, you can get it from the library. We can bring it here. So a little extra.
Okay. I have no one else, hold on just a second here. I have no one else signed in. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? I have no one signed in for public comment, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone? Okay.
No,
No.
we're not on item 12.
No, we're not.
I don't have anyone on item 8, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good. I will close that. I need a motion. All of them? Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Jung, second by Commissioner Lucy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, I believe, unanimously. Now we will do photographs. Individually, let's do it K9. Yep. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
There we go. All right. Everybody look right here. Good.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I think that brings us to item 10.
Mr. Chair, item 10 is our discussion, direction of staff regarding legislation or legislative issues proposed by legislators, by Washoe County, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, or by other entities permitted by the Nevada State Legislature to submit bill draft requests or such legislative issues as may be deemed by the chair or the board to be of critical significance to Washoe County. You should have the week 6 report, bills of interest. I preface that with just to let you know, next week we plan, Jamie Rodriguez will be here next week. At that point in time, all bills, 99% of bills will be introduced. There may be still a few leadership bills out there that will surface during the course of the session, but the point being, we should have a better picture of what's in front of us. Everyone should have that picture of what's in front of us by next week. 2 bills that we wanted to specifically discuss that Jamie asked me to talk about. The first is on page 5 of the report, SB 279, relating to general improvement districts, and we are asking that we take a position of support on this particular bill. This specifically, and my knowledge of the bill and what it does, basically it would require a GID when they dispose of property to follow the same processes that other local governments would follow when they dispose of that property. There's much more in the bill related to that topic and how that happens, but that's generally what that bill does.
Okay. Commissioner Burke-Bigler, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I would just say that I think this is a good start, but there's a great deal more that needs to be done with GIDs. Thank you.
So Commissioner Jung, I have you signed in. Did you want to? No. Oh, okay. All right. Commissioner Lucy, do we want to ask on each one? I mean, I'm okay with that. Okay. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, the next bill is not on the list because it didn't come out until after the list was published. We wanted to mention this because there are, I believe, or perhaps hearings coming up. This is SB 287, and certainly there'll be plenty of discussion as we move forward on this. As I said, it has just come out. This is a bill that's been worked on related to public records in Nevada. And again, preface, absolutely Washoe County supports open records. The bill as presented presents a number of challenges. And in general, what we would suggest is that we oppose the bill as it's written, giving us the opportunity then to go to the table and say we would like to work with all of the individuals involved to come to agreement on changes that might be in the bill. There's a long list of those issues. I can go through those if you want, or if again, as I said, there will be a number of groups working on this particular bill. We would like to have a seat at that table. So that would be the action that we would ask.
One of the things that was brought to my attention was not so much the transparency issue. This was, the impetus for this was October 1 in Las Vegas. And so correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager. So if we have a victim of a crime, any of those records could be made public at the request of a news agency or anyone, even an offender potentially. Am I correct in that?
That's my understanding. That's, again, one of the concerns related to this bill, again, among a number of those. This is a large omnibus kind of a bill. When we have those, it's similar to the crime bill that we've discussed. When it's first dropped, it's a long list of things that perhaps all parties have not yet had a chance to comment on. Again, we would like a seat at the table when that's discussed.
Commissioner Lucy, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have just a quick comment. And Mr. Manager could probably also chime in on this one. We did discuss this at NACO. There are some challenges that have been voiced by a number of the counties, from Clark County to, I know Lyon County chimed in, and also Douglas County, with concerns about Senate Bill 287. So NACO is taking a position of following along as, concerns as currently drafted. And with future discussions to be had as that gets amended. Currently, I don't see that. It's not scheduled for any current hearings right now, but we will be watching that from that standpoint. And another thing I just wanted to bring up that maybe Mr. Manager can also chime in on is that last night was for one of the first deadlines for the introduction of most bills, but those deadlines were extended, and so that there was more allowances. Currently, there's only 700 bills, roughly about 700 bills introduced at this time. So they're trying to extend those timelines to get some more, more of those bills introduced that are still anxiously waiting, so that they don't necessarily die just without being introduced. So more to hear from the legislature today.
So is the question, Mr. Manager, on SB 287, are you looking for a recommendation from us? And I know the request from staff is to oppose, and others is to oppose, as written.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So when we use the terminology opposed as written, we understand it's going to evolve.
Yes.
And in the end, our hope in the end is that we support a final amended bill.
Okay, Mr. Manager, continue.
Mr. Chair, those were the two that Jamie, Ms. Rodriguez had specifically asked that we bring. Certainly would open up to any questions you might have related to anything that's on this list or any other issues that you are hearing about tonight. We have a number of involved commissioners who through NACO, through our liaisons, who are greatly involved in the process. So I'm certainly not the only expert.
Commissioner Jung, have you signed in?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Manager, I know that Ms. Rodriguez is very busy right now. Can I get a subject matter expert besides her to meet with me on some of these issues? For instance, AB4, why are we neutral? I don't know the thinking behind it, so it'd be speculatory at this moment for me to object to being neutral. And then I'd also like to know, since the chair did sign a fair housing resolution, where are we as a county? Are we supporting the fair housing BDR that Mr. Irwin, our activist from Peavine Mountain, is also helping to support? And what it is, it's a covenant. It's on my house. And my home was built in 1947. And when my husband and I went to go sign all the papers, there's a covenant that says you can't have African American, well, they say black, you can't have black people. I can't ever sell it to them. And I kind of lost my you-know-what and didn't want to sign it, but then my husband, who is much more rational than me, said, Jesus H, you-know-what, sign it. I want this home. And we love our home, but in a lot of our old home covenants, and of course, the person who was doing our title said, well, that's against the law, it doesn't matter. But I don't want that anywhere near my stuff that I own. And I know that there is a bill statewide going in to strike all of that out to ensure fair housing. And who knows what could ever happen in the future. I hope that would never happen, but I am no longer a person that counts on hope, considering the leadership we have today. So I would like to see where we're at on that, Mr. Manager. And just in general, can I sit down with a subject matter expert? And I do want to give credit where credit is due. I appreciate our Friday call-in with our Government Affairs Director, Ms. Rodriguez, Vice Chairman Lucy was on it, I was on it, the manager was on it. That whoever came up with that, that's the best way that I've had real time, end of the week, kind of, hopefully she has some time in there. It's scheduled, obviously, if she has a meeting, which happened the week before, she had important business, she had to be at a meeting to hear the testimony. But that has really, in the 12 years I've been doing this, I look forward to that Friday meeting and get really, in real time, what's going on and can give some direction. Obviously, nothing big that would take the board direction, but just asking even the questions and having the discussion about it. So I appreciate it, but I would like to meet with the subject matter. And if that's with Mr. Alonso, use him, we pay him, that's fine too. So, and I'll even go down to Carson for the subject matter expert meeting, but I have some, just on some of these, where we're at and why, and background that I need.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
I'm ignorant, basically.
And I would offer this to any of the commissioners, if you provide us with a list of specific bills you would like more information on, subject matter expert, we can do that. And then also, I made a note, mental note, we'll group together all of the housing, affordable housing bills and get a report on where all of those stand at the moment.
Okay. Okay, I have no one else signed in wishing to speak.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may, or Commissioner Burke-Bigler, do you want to do that? Okay. Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we accept the report as provided within our packet today and take a position of opposition as written on Senate Bill 287.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Lucy, second by Commissioner Burke-Bigler. I have no one signed in wishing to speak under public comment for any of these items. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And Mr. Manager, I'm interested in the bill that Commissioner Jung brought up as well.
On housing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting what's buried in old covenants and laws and et cetera. Okay. All right, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, next scheduled item is item 11. This is the possible closed session for labor negotiations with Washoe County and our Truckee Meadows Fire. Just as a note, we do not need the session for Washoe County, but I know that the fire board earlier had recessed and we'll be doing that closed session.
Okay. Okay, so we do not need Washoe County. So Mr. Wattsfield, so I can close this meeting and then we can adjourn this meeting and then we'll adjourn the fire board meeting upstairs, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Mr. Manager, item number 12.
Mr. Chair, next item is item 12. This is public comment. Comment heard on this item is limited to 3 minutes per person, may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Commissioner also hears public comment during individual action items, and comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First up is Mr. Danny Cleos, followed by Ms. Tammy Holtstill.
Welcome.
Ms. Jones. Danny Cleus for the record. Last week you guys were talking about with the legislator the cap on lawsuits against the county. Here's a good suggestion. Do what you're supposed to do and there wouldn't be any lawsuits against the county. So you wouldn't have to worry about a cap. Now, in a traffic accident, I can see that. But anything else, do your jobs. Anyways, I did want to thank Ms. Jung, Commissioner Jung, for coming out and looking at our situation out there 3 weeks ago, a month ago, whenever it was. But I do have a recommendation. If you have animals, lock them up because she wants to take them home with her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cleus.
Ms. Tammy Holtstill, followed by Ms. Catherine Snediger. We need the overhead, please.
Welcome.
Tammy Holtstill, Lemon Valley Swan Lake Recovery Committee for the record. What you see before you there is working on your sewer plant. That millions, all we keep hearing is there's millions of dollars being put out there in our valley. Well, I know we're at least $750,000, and I know it's more than that now after seeing these pictures, that there's more than that going to protect that sewer plant that Washoe County thought it would be a great idea to build in a floodplain. In a 100-year floodplain to boot. So why should we be deemed when you guys are sitting there saying in your staff, are saying we spent millions of dollars out there to protect those citizens when most of it is to protect that sewer plant. It's not doing anything to help the residents. Tracy Hall and everybody on Shane Drive are not protected. The people on Compton, where there is a rock barrier, that's leaking again. And I bet you nobody's gone out there to take care of that. Just put another pump and try and take care of it that way. All the Band-Aids, all the pumps are just Band-Aids. And it's a lot of money for Band-Aids instead of dealing with taking care of the situation, which is that there is too much effluent, too much stormwater from development going into that lake. That lake is only 1,800 acres. The amount of water that is in there right now, the calculations have been done, and it's 2,800 acres of water there right now. That is a lot of water. And it's not really water, it's affluent. Because when you put fresh water into affluent, it's still affluent. That's EPA standards. So it's time to change that. It's time for you guys here to get on the stick. There is Superfund monies out there to change the situation. And it will go into effect in June. And you need to push the city of Reno, and the city of Reno needs to push you guys to start going after the money instead of saying, we need development to fix the infrastructure. Well, if development was doing the infrastructure like they're supposed to, we wouldn't be where we're at now with all this water. So give the horse away, and then you don't have anything to pull the cart. And that's what's happened so far with Washoe County. You've given the horse away, and now you're trying to figure out how to fix the situation. So it's time to change the situation. It's time to focus on Fed money to help you. It's an EPA standard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Catherine Snedeker, followed by Ms. Denise Ross.
Welcome back,
For the
Ms.
record,
Snedeker.
well, thank you. For the record, Catherine Snedeker, non-person, non-resident, unenfranchised natural woman. First, I want to say that I'm giving formal notice. Anybody from the county that wants to come to my property for any reason in any department must give me 3 days' notice first, so I can arrange my schedule to be there when they want to come and visit. No surprise visits. They don't have the authority. Secondly, I'd like to say the canine units, I love them. I think they're great. But they're also police officers. And so when a police officer, or if a police officer or sheriff pulls me over and wants to search my car for some reason and I deny him, he cannot bring a canine unit because that's a police officer also needs a warrant. They fool a lot of people all the time by doing that. It's dishonest, it's fraud, and it's entrapment because they think they have a way to avoid the legal process. So just be advised of that. I'd also like to say that our libraries and our librarians do an excellent job, especially when the feds came in and tried to get all the private information from citizens on the computers that they were at or the books they checked out. They told them, no way in hell, get out, and they did. Bravo to them. We have some people that actually stand up for the people in the county. And as for your health, safety, and welfare programs, that you should be protecting us and you're not, I think you should step it up. Because a perfect example of health, safety, and welfare versus infrastructure is evident. The benefit is to the developer and to whoever they paid to play, and the detriment is to us, the people, the men and women that are completely ignored. Lemon Valley is a perfect example, and Palomino Valley and the SPA is making a close second. Developer actually came and say, oh, we're building a 2-foot tall pass-through for any flood water to go to. But if there's a 4-foot wall of water, when I asked them how they protect against that, the answer was at our CAB meeting. There needs to be more done for the people and make the developer do what he's supposed to do and quit bribing people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Denise Ross?
Welcome, Ms. Ross.
Thank you, Denise Ross. I apologize for my outburst, public comment. I was a little excited about
It's
making
okay.
sure that you guys heard me on this one. Okay. My concern is when Ray Lake's mother was rushed out in the ambulance, and the ambulance had a difficult time making their way around there. I spoke with Chief Moore, and he was right here during that meeting, and he stated, I said, does the emergency response team, do they know now, since that incident, do they know how to get there? He said that he would be holding a meeting with all of the EMS services and let them know so that everyone would be advised of all of the impacts of the detours and all of the craziness that's going on out there. Okay, first, this has all happened in the last week. We had a drunk, which, well, I mean, I don't know how inexcusable, but nonetheless, the drunk hit one of the K-rails, the cement barriers that you guys are having put all along the HESCO barriers. But anyway, he went head-on into one of those K-rails and split it in half. So what's going to happen to my vehicle or my son whenever somebody pushes me off the road on Lemon Drive? I'm going to get to go into one of those cement walls instead of the HESCO barriers that everyone's so concerned about protecting. What about my life? What about my son's life? Next, there was a high-speed chase by the sheriff department. The sheriff department, they get lost out there. It's sad, but true. I think they were able to try to follow that vehicle, but watching them try to maneuver their way out was a little confusing. Another issue, and this is what really, really concerns me. We had a fire out there on Deodore the other night. I believe it was Saturday night. I spoke with the family, and they had the Stead Fire Department and the Sun Valley Fire Department respond to that. There were 8 fire trucks in front of their home and an ambulance that showed up. The ambulance showed up 15 minutes late because they followed their GPS. Their GPS directed them on the dirt Deodore, and they were going in circles and everywhere else trying to get there. 15 minutes would have caused a life to be lost. The fire department, all of the firemen that were there have said, and you can check on it, whatever, all of the fire department had a difficult time getting there. They had to stop, they had to turn around at different areas, they had to maneuver their way around the barriers. You guys are making decisions that affect the lives out there, and the EMS services, and I don't care whose responsibility it is. It's your responsibility to please make sure that all of those places are notified of what's going on out there, and they have proper maps. Thank you.
That's all the public comment I have signed in, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I have no one else signed in. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close it. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, next item is item 13. This is your Commissioner, County Manager's announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas. I would like, if I could, Mr. Chair, earlier discussion regarding some requested agenda items. I was confirming this date, April 9th board meeting. There are 2 topics that I think were discussed earlier, one being North Valley's area flooding, and to include discussions of current board direction, actions to date, the matrix as it's called. I think it's going to end up with a different name in the end, and then also amount expended to date in that area related to flooding issues. And then the second item was a discussion and possible direction on the topic of stop signs for April 9th.
Yes, okay, that would be fine. And on the, and I've sort of worked backwards with staff, Mr. Manager, on that matrix. I want a number of line items on that in terms of the potential for FEMA's participation, the time frame that it would take to institute. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that we really need to look at on that matrix, and I want, regardless of the idea, I want everything to show up on that. Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several items I would like to get on the record and a response to. Item number 1, I already took care of, which is the fair housing, BDR. Item number 2, if this could be taken back to our communications team that actually represents Human Services Agency, National Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention, which was signed today. Can we start a campaign that educates parents, no corporal punishment campaign? There is tons of data and research for many decades now that corporal punishment is not effective because parents decide to spank their children when they're angry, and that's the wrong time to spank your children, and it's no fun to spank your children when you've settled down, I assume. I never received corporal punishment in my household. So can we, I think that's a way to prevent child abuse, teaching people to control themselves, and that hitting people doesn't actually change behavior and may get you into some trouble with your own temper. I also want to report on the overdue fines and fees to the library and why they go to the general fund. Why is that? And it's not an accusation, it's just, I don't know why it works that way. And how much do we collect? I want a full roll-up of that, and again, the reasoning in past boards why that went to the general fund. I want to thank Chairman Hartung formally. I didn't know what was going on, as per usual. When the calendar purchase happened, if you haven't seen these very handsome dogs that are in here, and I will be contacting the photographer because the Jungs and the Jung Punks, that's what we call our 2 dogs, would love to have this type of photography done for our family. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention there. Item number 5, Madam Commissioner Burke-Bigler, can you please circle back with your district health officer? I have been working on an issue for a couple years now, and that is whereby the district health department is assessing ice cream trucks as if they were food trucks. And they have gone up tremendously, and ice cream trucks don't sell food. And people that drive ice cream trucks, number 1, they're usually English as second language, 4 to the 5. There's only 5 in our whole county, by the way. And there's one gentleman who's advocating for all, and he told me that the 4 out of the 5 paid because they are, understandably, feeling uncertain how to approach government and afraid that they may be looking at ICE sanctions, et cetera. I don't know if they're undocumented or not, but it's a general distrust of government, which I don't blame them. So can you please find out why they're still being assessed the same amount that a food truck is being assessed in Washoe County? That's horrible. Then I also, Mr. Manager, will offer my services as a resolution proofreader. My resolution was littered with errors, grammatically, spelling, and punctuation-wise, and these go to people, they're supposed to be a big honor, but if they're messy, I don't even know why we would waste government time for them. So I volunteer, I will proofread for that, so there's a solution to a complaint. Also, can I get a history over the last 5 years how much we've invested in the sewer treatment plant out in Swan Lake and what those actions have been, how much it cost, who paid for it and why, and what the life expectancy is of that treatment plant? Also, can staff look into the Superfund money that was allegedly being released on June 1st? When I spoke to my congressional delegation, they mentioned, one of them did mention Superfund. So I would like to have some information. Do we qualify? What is a Superfund? Are there other areas in Washoe County that need Superfund status? The lake, Washoe Valley, other areas that also flood with this unusual, probably permanent weather. Also, I need to know with Madam Commissioner Burke-Bigler, can you find out what the REMSA response time is for Deodore? Because if they're not in compliance, they owe us money, no matter what the condition of the streets are, because that has been very well publicized. Yeah, thank you. And finally, I have asked for, I would think 3 years now, and I'm not happy with the response time and no explanation. Contract Review Board, I've asked for this now with purchasing for 3 years, when I had a real heartburn and heartache with our fabulous, and I'm saying that facetiously, purchasing person and their boss, which were summarily fired. One retired, thank God. But I asked for a Contract Review Board, and I've heard nothing. And I would like to know justification or lack thereof of why this hasn't. And Madam Clerk, will you please look that up for me as well in a search as to the exact date that I asked for that? And this is like the 4th time I brought it up.
Mr. Chair.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Vice
Chair,
Chairman. Thank you.
Just as a matter of information, it was my understanding that there was a meeting between Commissioner Jung. If that didn't happen, I'll find out how soon how can we do it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jung. All right. Our chairman has stepped out, so I'll jump in here. Looks like Commissioner Herman is signed in. Commissioner Herman?
At an earlier request or comment about a closing and maybe I shouldn't be answering our own discussions, but just for information, I'll just put that out as information. After being in real estate since 1971, when people purchase property, everything on the title report is the history of that property. And therefore, they really can't remove it. So just as an informational thing.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Commissioner Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, Mr. Manager, one thing I would ask, I know this week a number of our federal delegation are down testifying in front of the legislature as they do every session. And a number of our commissioners were able to go and participate in meetings in Washington, D.C. with them, specifically Congressman Amodei. But I would ask that if we could get with Congressman Amadei's office and potentially have a scheduled time for him to come and present in front of the commission in regards to current affairs in Washington, D.C., so that we could all have that conversation with him here. I know he's doing that this week throughout Northern Nevada, throughout the other commissions, but as it pertains to discussions that they've had in regards to federal government with FEMA and what's going on, BLM, those types of conversations. I'd like to have those conversations here on the public record if we could ask his office to do so. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll basically just fill in here at the last. So, Mr. Manager, as part of the matrix, we've talked about PDM grants, pre-disaster mitigation grants, and I know our window is potentially closing. We've still got about a year. That's one of the things that I want to talk to FEMA about when they come, when District 9 comes, which is Janelle Woodward and Bunny Bishop. Congressman Amodei did tell me if we can put a proposal that we can all agree upon on his desk, that he would push those PDM grants. I know I have some ideas, but I know that there's some other ideas that are coming forward, and so I really want to make sure that we have all of the possible ideas on the matrix. I too am interested, as Commissioner Jung is, with I did not hear of any talk of Superfund money, so I'd certainly like to know who might be giving that out. And that's all I have. Commissioner Burke-Bigler, I see you've signed in.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one last thing. I had the opportunity to have a conversation with City Councilwoman Bonnie Weber and talk about a number of issues that we're working together on. And she expressed some interest on behalf of the city to work with us directly on issues related to Lemon Valley and Swan Lake. So I wonder if we could as we put our plan together or start looking at whatever it is that we're going to look at on the 9th of April, I wonder if we could work with the city to somehow have staff work with the city to kind of, all of us talk about it at the same time, because perhaps we can get some resolution sooner rather than later if we do that.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, I have no one else signed in. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn this meeting, but then we're going to go upstairs and conclude our fire board meeting with a closed session. So we are adjourned. Thank you.